Tax and Repito here. In this video we're going to talk about the Italian income tax rate 2024. If you're new to this channel, Esentaxa talks about the Italian tax system, tax optimization tax strategies in English language. So we are going to explore all the nuances, all the details, all the particularities of the Italian tax system to allow you to squeeze your taxes if you want to relocate in this country. Okay? And we are #1 channel on the specific topic, on the specific subject. Now, if you want to contact us, in the description below the video you will have our email contact info@esentaxa.com, or you can book a consultation call. In the description below you will have our Calendly link, 20 minutes for specific questions, 1 hour if you have quite a lot of things to ask us and to start to planify your relocation to Italy tax-wise, take into account your personal situation, your family situation, your business structure, or you can also book a consultation with a tax simulation project in which we can understand, we can project your situation in Italy before I had the relocation, and then you can understand if Italy makes sense for you and tax-wise could be a good destination. Italy uses the progressive tax rate system, which is quite common all over the world. And in 2024 we have an update, and I'm going to explain you now the new tax rates. Let's keep into account that these tax rates works for the worldwide income that you are receiving while are you Italian tax resident. So, income tax rate. It's very simple, has been shrinked and cut compared to the previous years. So basically, it's very simple. We have only 33% from an income that starts from €0 up to 28,000 euro per year. Then, if your income passes this threshold, you will start being taxed at 35% from 28,000, as I said, up to 50,000, and above 50,000, you will be taxed at a rate of 43%. So 23, 35, 43. That's it. Now, what has been changed in comparison with the previous years is the first tax bracket that has been enlarged a lot. So up to 28,000 euro per year, you pay 23%. Then, from the following slot, from 28 to 50,000, you pay 35, and above 50,000, you pay 43, which means that if you have an income of 50,000 euro, you're not going to pay 43% all on your entire income from zero, but only on this lot. A lot of people are scared when you see these high tax rates. They think that this tax rate it's applicable for all your income. No, you start paying 43 from 50,000 onwards. Okay, this is just the basics, but there are a lot of ways to reduce your taxes afterwards, because if we make basically a calculation, if we come with the average of these tax rates, so if you have, for example, 50,000 euro per year in Italy as income, my tax rate, my global tax pressure, it's about 14,400 euro, which is a tax pressure of 28.8%. You see? 28, it's the average of these percentages. So we'll be taxed at 28.8%. But Italy has a system to reduce your taxes after the calculation. So this number is not what you have to give to the state. This is a gross RPF, it's called. RPF is the acronym of taxes on individual. So this is a gross value, and this value can be still reduced. So you can have the detrazioni list, so you can subtract 40,400 against renovation for your house. For example, 50% of your renovation cost as individual can be subtract against this number. You can also subtract the health care expenses in Italy. So 19% of each healthcare expenses for you, for your wife, for your child can be subtract against this number, and we can reduce this number down, reducing also the tax pressure. Moreover, if you have an income which is lower, you have more benefits of this kind. For example, if your income is 28,000 euro per year, is not 50,000, then what you have to pay based on the tax bracket system will be 6,440 euro okay, which corresponds to a tax pressure of course of 23% because you're in the first bracket. So this is 23%, okay? But this number, if you are an employee, you're granted by default detrazioni, which is almost 2,000 euro, just because you're an employee, and other 1,000, almost 1,000 euro as a tax credit. So you basically end up paying not 6,440, but 3,440. And this is a tax pressure of 12.5%, which is the alphabet, okay? So if your income basically is lower than 28,000, you're entitled to have this deduction, extra deduction against the amount of tax to pay, plus the previous one that I was saying, like renovation costs, healthcare expenses, which are most common used. And this is the good way to reduce your tax pressure. So your tax break system are not just this one, because those are not just definitive. You calculate the average of it, which is, for example, for 50,000 is 28.8, but then you can reduce this number thanks to the detrazione list. And this is what we do in Esentaxa. So if you have a list of detrazioni, a potential detrazione list that you can exploit, we can make a tax simulation and we can tell you exactly how much you can reduce from this number, how much money, how much is the amount of detrazioni that can squeeze down this number, which is definitely one to be given to the state. So this is one of the technique. Of course, if your income is lower, you have more benefit, and along with this detrazione, you have the default one. Keep in mind that these are just an example. These are given for granted when you're an employee, but you can also have detrazioni for your wife at your charge, which is other almost 1,000 euro. For your child at your charge, other 1,000 euro. That has to be added here. So 1,000 less, 1,000 less, and in the end, you're gonna pay only 1,440. Okay? You see, you remove all these expenses at this number, and this is called RPF Gross. We have seen it, RPF Gross for 50,000, and this is the RPF Gross for 28,000 euro, okay? Now, this tax bracket system with the detrazioni option, it works when you are an employee, when you are self-employed, when you run a business, and when you run a business, you, of course, you apply this taxation on your profit. You remove your cost, you make your classical subtraction, revenue minus your cost, and then you have the profit, and the profit will be taxed at this tax rates. When you're an employee, you have also this extra deduction if your income is lower than 28,000, and this tax rate is also applicable, you must be applicable for revenue coming from abroad. When you have house under rent abroad, when you have also house rented in Italy, but till there you have an option, which can be a flat tax, which will be subject to another video, but this is what is the general taxation. Now, what you're not aware of, that Italy has some tax benefit when you're a new resident. And here comes the most tax beneficial scheme, which is called the Forfait Regime, which has been updated in 2024, and now it works like this. If you have a degree, if you work as a high qualified individual, if you belong to a list of professions that Italy published in the specific website, you can apply for this Forfait Regime. Of course, the Forfait Regime has more requirements, has to be respected. We have made an online course for that. Look in the description below the video, you will find it, and you will be sure if you are qualified or not for this tax regime. So now, what gives you as a benefit? What is the benefit of the Forfait Regime 2024? It's simple. Just reduce it by half each and every tax bracket. So they give you 50% discount on your taxes, which means more or less that you have, instead of paying 23% here, you pay 12.5%. Instead of 35 here, you pay 17.5%. Instead of 43, you pay 21.5%. Okay? So you basically cut by half the tax bracket system. There is also a municipality called Campione d'Italia, where actually the deduction is not 50%, but reaches 80%, okay? And here in our consultancy call, we can understand, we can check together if this destination, this specific commune can be suitable for you, for your specific situation, okay? Now, There is also the possibility, in case you're not qualified for the input rate regime, if you discover, thanks to our eligibility test, as I repeat in the description below the video, if you have understood that this is not for you, you're not qualified, but you still want to move to Italy and try to spare taxes, and your income is below 85,000 euro as revenue, you can apply for the Forfait Regime. The Forfait Regime works in this way. This is the threshold that you can have. Then the states give you a forfeit deduction based on your activity. So we analyze with you which is the activity you want to carry on in Italy. There is a specific ATECO code. It's a activity code that describes your activity in the Italian tax system. And based on that, we will have a forfeit deduction, which means that you're not going to deduct your real cost, but just a percentage that is given by the state based on your type of activity. So it can start from 22% deduction up to 60%. Okay, these are the range in which you can fall into based on your type of activity. For example, if you're a consultant, this Italian state assumes that you don't have a lot of costs. So they say, okay, you don't account any costs, so they will be also cheaper from the accounting point of view, but we'll give you 22%. Because we estimate that for this kind of job, in generally speaking, you deduct 22%. But if you're selling goods, if you're a trader, if you have an e-commerce business, the Italian tax agency assumes that you have 60% of your revenue as a cost, okay? And then you pay taxes only on 40% of it, okay? So this is the range of forfait costs. So you basically, if your revenue is below 85,000, you deduct this forfait cost, and what remains, it's taxed only 5% flat. This 5% flat substitutes all the RPF taxation bracket system that we have seen before in this video. That system disappears. You don't have the detrazioni list, you don't have tax bracket, you don't have anything. Just 5% flat on what remains after the deduction. So you have 85,000, you subtract the 22% of it, or 60% of it based on your type of activity. What remains, it's taxed only at 5% for the first 5 years. And also we need to check with you if you also qualify for the forfait regime, because it's another tax regime, but it's more open, there are a lot of less restrictions, but there are still some requirements that needs to be respected. And it's not based on your type of activity. Every kind of activity is allowed for the forfait regime. This is very important to know. After 5 years, this 5% becomes 15% forever, okay? So these are the tax benefits. Now, I just want to, here a lot of people think, okay, I pay 5% is good. Well, you pay less than 5% because you don't apply 5% of 85,000. You apply 5% after the deduction. So your real tax pressure, in terms of taxes, it's if you have the 22% deduction, it's not 5% but 3.9%. In the good case, if you have a business that allows you to have 60% deduction, will be 2.9% tax pressure. Okay? This is the real tax pressure of the forfait regime. Maybe in the previous video on the Esentaxa, I was not clear on this point. The real tax pressure is 3.9 or 2.9, so it's in this range based on your deduction of your type of activity. I hope I was clear for the forfait regime. I hope that was quite clear. Of course, in this picture, it's missing the social security, which in Italy is quite high, but here in Esentaxa, we have explained in different videos how to get rid of the imps, how to squeeze your imps. So there are ways to pay your social contribution, a small portion as a social contribution, and not pay the entire one with some strategies.